Hi everyone, it's Anna Wheaton here from Nudge Nudge Ink Ink. I did an Instagram reel recently of the stack, cut and shuffle technique for card making, and it got a lot of questions and good responses, so I thought I would make a YouTube video here to show you the technique. Now what I'm going to use is the Countryside Inn Designer Series paper, and I don't have very much left of it at all. I need to get some more, but it's all these beautiful patterns in blues, and then it coordinates with 4 different blue cardstock colors. So Balmy Blue, Misty Moonlight, Night of Navy, and Boho Blue. So, and of course Whisper White, Basic White. So if you're a fan of the blue color combination, or if you like to keep your color combos fairly simple, this is a really good DSP to keep in mind. So the reason I'm starting with 6x6 is that's just what's left in my pack, and I have chosen 3 patterns that I'm going to work with. So the first thing we want to do is stack them, because it's DSP, so it's fairly thin, which means that I can cut that all in one go, which is fairly essential for this technique. You want all your pieces to be the same. So I'm going to cut this at 9.5. So this is 1 centimeter narrower and shorter than a card front. 9.5, cutting all the way through all 3, and then in this direction 13.8. So that's 9.5 by 13.8 centimeters, and I've got my little pieces I'll just put aside. So there are my, I'm just hesitating because they don't look proportionate. 9.5 by 13.8. No, that's correct. So I'm keeping them stacked. Now, please notice, I should have said this before, if you have a directional pattern, you want to make sure it is facing the way that you want your cards to face. So if I was going to make landscape cards, I'd want that facing the other way. Now, I'm then going to cut these into 3 pieces, and there's no measurement for this. You can do whatever you like here, so you can make it quite a sharp cut, you could make it less elongated. Let's go with that. Okay, that's cut through all 3, so they're all exactly the same, and then I'm going to do the same with this one, just trying to not go the same as I always do. Now I can put my trimmer aside and you'll see how these work. This is my bottom piece, bottom right hand corner. This is the piece that goes beside it, and then this is the piece that goes up the top. So you can see as I do it, I'm mixing them up so that you have one of each of the patterns to form 3 different rectangles. Now there's no rule that it has to be 3 cuts. You can see that piece there. You could even cut that again if you wanted to. You would need to have a 4th piece in your mix because you've got 4 sections to your cutting. All right, the next thing I want to do is grab 3 of these colors. No, I'm not going to use Balmy Blue. So I'm using Misty Moonlight, Night of Navy, and Boho Blue, and I'm going to cut them into rectangles. Let's see if I can get all 3 at once. This is thicker than DSP, so I do have to press pretty hard, and I'm cutting these half a centimeter larger than the piece of DSP. So what should happen now ears. If I lay these on top, you can see that I'm just going to have a little border around the edge. Now, another thing that you can do is you could even separate these a little bit so that they have the join where they meet showing a little bit. However, just notice if you do that, see, I've separated those, so of course that makes that wider, and this does not have a cut in it to make it wider. So this would really suit if you did have a cut to make 4 sections, because then you could widen that one a little bit. Okay, this one goes here. Okay, so what I want to do now is to adhere all of those. Now, depending on how, I'll show you the difference actually, depending on how confident you are with your lining things up. I've got a fairly straight eye, and I've done this quite a bit. So I can get them right where I want them, which is important when you're using something like a tape runner, because once you put it down, you pretty much have it stuck in place. All right, another thing that you can do is use your Tombow liquid glue, because when you put your piece down, you can then wiggle it a little bit to get it into place. Now, just returning to the seal. It's seal. We used to have snail, and it's very easy just to fall back into calling it snail. Now I've gone a little wonky there. See, that one's hanging down a little bit. How did I manage that? All right, so there I have 3 card fronts, which I'm going to stick to 3 basic white card bases. I'm using the thick basic white, so I have cut this and I've already scored it because I find that that works better with my basic cards, my thick basic white. It just gives it a cleaner fold. And then attach these. Once I've done that, I want to add my greeting. Now I've cut these out of thin basic white, and then I've also done a few things in Night of Navy, and these are cut from the All That set of dies. So these have quite a number of outlines for labels, but then also these accent pieces which are handy. I'll grab my Night of Navy ink, which I just chose the one, and then the one color rather than try them all. Now, what you want to do too is think about where you're going to put these and what you're happy to cover up. So see, that sits quite well there, depending on how your piece comes together. That you might think covers too much. Then I've got this one, which has ended up a bit wonky. I may even be able to distract from that a little bit by putting a label down the bottom, perhaps. So let me start with this one, and let's get the Hello Irresistible Balloons and the Hello stamp. Ink that up. And I'm going to add this one here. Now, this is where these little accent pieces come in. If you're on a bit of a budget, things like ribbon cost a little bit more. Cardstock is very cheap. So if you can add little accents that are made of cardstock, it's a great way of adding some detail without adding too much cost, especially if you're making a lot of something. So I'm adding dimensionals here to this. Oh, I'm cutting that line on the edge of the dimensionals, but it's already cut. I'm going to stick that on. And then I can add these. Now, if I go to add those and I can't poke them in enough, I can always just chop a little bit off. I rather have this steady and glued down so that I can then add things without the greeting sliding around. That shows up really nicely on that lighter color. Using Tombow, our multi-purpose glue, because that allows me a little bit of wiggle room. So there's one, and let's see. I've got to use something different, haven't I? Let's try that one. I'm actually liking popping them there. Now I'll show you something different with this one. I'm liking just popping them over the intersection. Better than that, for example. Now here's another one of those same shapes that I have cut and out of Night of Navy, and I'm just going to cut that in half to form a background, but I want to stamp this first. So I'll go with Cheerful Daisy, wishing you the brightest birthday, which is a lovely sentiment. They're all lovely. It's not like I'd put one on that wasn't lovely. Wishing you the brightest birthday. Okay, then this is where we can use this. I'm just going to add a bit of seal. I don't want my seal to go over here. It's just in this main section, because what I can do is line this up like so, so that it forms a shadow. Just want to make sure it's tucked in behind there. Then I can do the same here. Like so. Grab my dimensionals, knowing that I have already cut them. Just use my take your pick tool. Be a little bit more professional. and pop that one there. And here's this last one. Let me decide what to do with this, because I'm not happy with that wonky corner. I can't even work out how I managed to do that. Can't flip it. Just want to remove the focus. Mind you, I think often we notice it, but recipients wouldn't notice it. That's going to work, I think. Let me find a small greeting. This is another set that's got very good greetings. This is the circle sayings, which goes with the 2 and I think it's the 2 3/8 inch punch, and all of these fit the circle image, but there's also these lovely sentiments. So let's go for a thank you. I really like the font on these. Now, instead of lining it up with the edge of that DSP, I'm going to line it up with the edge of the card so that it masks that a little bit. It's funny, I've been away for a month, and so traveled many miles, and so my brain is just getting back into, like, I've forgotten where things are or how to do things. I can remember that when my son was still at school. You'd go away on holidays and then you'd come back and you'd forget how to make school lunches. Okay, so there's the thank you. Then the other thing we want to do is add a little bit of bling, and we'll continue with the blue. So these are the Tinsel Gems 3-pack. 3 because there's 3 colors, and this is Misty Moonlight. So I particularly want to have some gems on this one because I haven't added anything else. I like adding them. I like adding a gem at the end of the tail of something like that. And of course, I have to have 3. I'm switching to my putty end. See, I told you I've forgotten how to do things. But the putty end of the Take Your Pick tool is really very handy for picking up. This is my problem. I always like the little ones and I always run out of them. I'm going to put that back and choose a bigger one, which is a contrast of size too. Okay, this one, I'm going to use that little one on the end of that tail, and then I'm going to add some here, just in amongst the DSP, maybe 1 in each. Yep, over here. Okay, so let's have a look at all 3 of those. Remember, this is the stack, cut and shuffle. So I've used 3 pieces of DSP, but divided them up across 3 cards. So that's one sample there. And then these are the ones that I had on my Instagram reel using the Irresistible blooms. So you can see I've done 2 layers of coloured cardstock before the white here, just picking up the colours that are in there. And I use that hello. Didn't realise that. Different, just compare those 2. You can see quite a different layout for the cutting. Doesn't matter, you can just make it up as you go along. So there you go. Great way to use your DSP. And I'm going to put that one there. And a great way to give to make 3 cards at once, or even 4, and to give them just a little something different to the front. Hope that has inspired you. Please like the video, please subscribe, and I will get back into making some more regular videos. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.